to call this meeting to order, the Board of Selectmen, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019, to order. Please join us in the pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody. I've got a bad cold here, so I hope you can understand me. This meeting is recorded for our internet and local cable station, and so I'd like to make that note. I would just like to join a moment of silence. Our highway superintendent there, Mr. Green there, passed away, and I just found out about it tonight. A moment of silence for him. Thank you. I've asked for arrangements. We haven't got anything that I just found out about. You just got a card, so if it's any follow-up, we'll get the information to you. Okay, moving along, warrants, the board sign the act on quiet claim deed for Pearl Road. Dave?
So, before you is a deed for Pearl Road. As you know, it was accepted at town meeting in June, and what we have done is that in the deed, it's been amended from what was originally signed back in June, and the reason for that is because we wanted to make sure the town was properly covered for both drainage issues and in reference to drainage issues and sewer issues. So as a result, we have incorporated 2 additional agreements that the HOA has agreed to as well. There's also a trustee certificate in your packet, so you can see that they are lawfully able to sign on behalf of the Pearl Road Estates. And so if you have any questions, I'll answer them, but if not, I would ask you to sign the deed.
Question from the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Under the statute for accepting of town roads, the board has 120 days in which it must act. Today is actually the 121st day. You no longer have the authority to accept the vote at town meeting. I actually provided a copy of the law, if you would be so kind just to go to it in the agenda packet. Thank you. You'll notice if it is necessary to acquire land for the purpose of townway or private way which is laid out, altered, or relocated by the selectmen, road commissioners, or other officers of a town under this chapter, such offers shall, and that's the operative word, shall, within 120 days after the termination of the town meeting. Today is 121.
Okay, Dave, what's the answer to that question on the floor here? I know you've spent endless time with this, and probably you spent more time on this than I think just about everything else that you do here, you know? And
I have.
I appreciate that extra effort that you've done now. Now you have that before us there, and you're our administrator.
So John brought this to our attention a couple of weeks ago, maybe even longer ago. I know it was longer ago. So I had a conversation with town council at that time. John has always cited this. John provided this to us, I guess Monday or Tuesday. So we include in the packet. And their argument is threefold. One is that you'll see it says Chapter 82, the laying out, Section 24, taking by eminent domain. This is not an eminent domain taking. So again, town council is telling us that just the fact that it falls under an eminent domain chapter and section, that one, it doesn't pertain. 2 is that they also referred me, there was a pretty comprehensive 76-page document that John provided for the last meeting that was written in 2011 by an attorney specific to town ways and how the acceptance process happens. You'll recall which one I'm referring to. I think it was Smothers was the one. And on page 27 of that document, it says the following, Section 24 of General Law, Chapter 82. That's this one. requires that the selectmen adopt an order of taking for the layout within 120 days of the town meeting vote accepting the layout. Semicolon. Obviously, this is not required if the way is to be given to the town, as would be the case with a private subdivision. So that seems to corroborate our legal counsel's advice. The third part is that they still are under a different opinion. Again, they're our legal counsel, but they're under a different opinion that once it is laid out through the planning board process, that it follows a different process. And the last item of note is that, as they advised me at one time, is that, though I know John would argue otherwise, but what they have said is that if this were to ever be challenged in court, and it was 121 days instead of 120 days, is that the judge is probably going to scold somebody for not following with 120 days, and they do not believe that they would require the town to then restart the entire process. They would say, do a better job going forward. That's their opinion. We had always targeted this date because truthfully, June 3rd to October 2nd would appear to fall within the 120 days. We had to do a lot of work on this that nobody anticipated. I think we all know why. And as a result, when we looked at the calendar, we assumed it fell within 4 months because it does. But because of the way the calendar falls with 31 days in July and August, it came out to 121. But for the various reasons that I laid out, Town Council does not believe that it's applicable, including the fact that it does say taking by eminent domain, and this is not an eminent domain case.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, you'll notice that in that section, it actually draws out two distinctive actions that can be taken. It's the acquisition of the land through purchase or adopt an order for the taking of such land by eminent domain. It doesn't say it's only referring to eminent domain. That statutory interpretation never adheres strictly to the specific title. There is case law on this, which I provided previously. The citation that Administrator Gagné just gave you was actually under a section addressing specifically eminent domain, which I agree, this is not an eminent domain situation, but it is an acquisition. And if you actually take a look at the deed, how you're accepting it, the Board of Selectmen do hereby accept a conveyance of land. And within the deed itself, it's for consideration paid of $1. Now, whether it's a nominal amount or not, it is still an amount subject to an appropriations vote. That vote did not happen at town meeting. That vote would have required 2/3. The vote also would have had to have been taken, as discussed previously, to accept this land. That did not happen. That would have required only a majority vote, because it does exist in a subdivision plan, and I won't rehash, the town council's opinion, which is contrary to case law and Supreme Court opinion. Interesting opinion at that, and just that, opinion, unsupported by any law or citations. So in this particular instance, vote your conscience, vote the statute. Good luck, gentlemen, gentlewoman.
Okay, we've got a hand up, Donna, go ahead.
Speak on this.
Go ahead.
I'd like to, I'm just curious how much money and time has been spent on issuing Mr. Dupuy's objections to this. It seems as though there's been a lot of work put on this just to try to go against what the rules that were being followed that everybody thought, including the town council. Mr. Cagney, do you have an estimate of how many hours and funds have been wasted? Or maybe not even wasted, but just spent dealing with Mr. Dupuy's spaghetti throwing on the wall and seeing what sticks?
Are you okay if I answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Okay. I don't have a full legal tally. I will say at this point, we are at least $3,000 in counting. The bills come in a month after the fact. So this past month, in preparation for the last meeting, there was more work spent. So I'm going to guess $4,500 at this point. I know I've spent, I shared, you and I were talking about this earlier. I've probably spent a couple hundred hours on this over the summer. And, obviously our staff has and town council's time. So I hope I'm answering the question. I'm doing the best I can.
Oh, thank you. in my opinion, that's irresponsible. And I'm sure that the town would agree it'd be irresponsible for them to go against their town council's opinion. And while I understand the need for rules and regulations, I think it is wildly bad taste to sit there and just throw, case law when you know that they're not gonna go against the town's council's opinion. That's just my opinion. And I also think it's weird that you're trying to hurt, other town people who live in the town.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First, I'm not opposed to accepting a town way. I have absolutely no issue with that. What I do take issue with is the manner and method. And I presented certain procedures for other towns that could be adhered to. One of the reasons why I object to this is because an improper acceptance of a town way puts the town at additional liabilities. Also, public funds cannot be spent on streets that are not properly accepted. And this goes for any road that in the past may have followed the town council's opinion for the planning board authority to lay it out, contrary to the clear language of the statute. So basically, if town funds have been spent on attempted public ways, which remain as private streets, that's actually an abuse of public funds. That's what I'm saying here. It's that following the procedures and making sure that the town is protected, which, again, this should be an easement, not a quitclaim deed. Because if you look at the actual deed itself, the town now accepts the liability for any property damage caused by the septic system or the drainage system. Yes, the homeowner association will repair the systems themselves and then take care of repairing the road under the language of the deed. But if those systems cause any damage to any other properties, the town's now on the hook for that. Whereas if this were an actual easement instead, the town would not have gained that liability. So following the systems, following the proper procedures, meeting the statute, and not just throwing spaghetti up on the wall to see if it sticks, is actually in the town's interest. And that's all town members, including the members who live on Pearl Road. Because they're actually putting themselves at a deficit here by going forward with this particular process.
Well, I'd like to say, we've been doing this for years. Hugh Hurley has been involved, and we didn't have, and all of a sudden there we got all kinds of problems. This board voted, no more money to be spent on this. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to bring it, and even the people, we're putting them through a lot up there too, because they're the ones that, and I appreciate they attending every meeting here, and I'd like to get this thing over with. And if we can't believe our legal counsel, that's what we pay these people for. And Dave has done a lot of research on it there. Board members, Anthony, you have anything to say on this before? I'm going to ask to sign this thing.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'd like to move on and get this done.
Okay,
Well, just to respond to John, because I did say I would read what you sent, and what I couldn't get past on each and every town policy was that it starts off by saying this is not a legal recommendation or this is not legal advice. They're policies. And I'm not diminishing the information you gave us, but a lot of what we've seen has had to do with takings, and this is not what we're dealing with. To Eldon's point, we hire town council, we trust in town council, and this has been going on a number of months now. A lot of time was spent over the past week on the sewer and stormwater management system agreements to make sure that we took every possible precaution to protect the town from anything that might occur on these properties due to either set of systems. And the homeowners association and the residents are taking full responsibility. The agreements spell it out, that if anything should happen and it's not resolved, then the town has the right to lien these properties. So I think all of the steps we could possibly take to protect the residents from incurring any liability, unexpected liability, by accepting this, we've worked that out. I respect all the work you've done, I truly have.
Mr. Chairman, can you show me the part where it says the homeowners will allow a lien against the
It-
properties?
It's in the agreements, John.
Okay, well, I have what looks like an older agreement.
So,
Can you
oh,
show it to me?
So page 7, page 8, section 7 of the Stormwater
Okay,
Management
I was not
Agreement.
provided this.
Yeah, right.
so.
Okay, so it reads, if owner fails to pay for said costs of corrective action, then the town shall be entitled to place the cost of the corrective action as a lien, proportioned equally based on the number of residential units in the West Meadow Woods subdivision on each individual lot within said subdivision as a special charge. It then goes on to cite the statute that is applicable.
And anywhere in that agreement, does it say that the homeowners association takes on liability for damages caused by those systems?
When you say damages caused by those systems,
Let's say the
for an
system-
example,
Here's the example. The system somehow backs up and floods one of the Pearl Road houses. And they sue the town based on the liability that the town has taken over the liability of the roadway, which includes the sewer system for hazardous materials. And I don't have the statute to cite right now, but there is one which refers to the owner of a property has the liability for hazardous materials and hazardous waste, which a sewer system meets that.
but we're not taking ownership of the source system, we're merely taking ownership of the road.
Which
So-
is the land.
I would think a reasonable court would see, if something were to happen to the source system, how did the road affect the source system? There's also built-in mechanisms for periodic inspections that the responsible party is to incur and report to the town. So these agreements, countless hours have been spent over the past week going back and forth on these agreements because we don't want the residents to incur any unexpected costs. And at this point, it seems like the right thing to do. So,
Yeah, Hugh.
Mr. Chairman, this subdivision has gone through more scrutiny, review, talked about than any other. We've been accepting subdivision roadways after they've been finished and accepted by the planning board. We released the surety. We've been doing it for years. And we've now all of a sudden, we're getting into this. Every one of them, we have accepted the fee. We should own the fee in the road. We shouldn't be getting easements. Yes, it's a public road. These people are entitled to live on a public road just like everybody else in town who lives on a public road. They met all the criteria that they should before the planning board, and we deemed it, as Mr. Gay had pointed out, we were the ones to decide the roadway. We did our job, we accepted it, and now we're going through, this should be accepted. They should be on a public road just like everybody else in this town.
Well, I agree with you, because, and the laws have changed over the years. I mean, we've been doing this for years there. I mean, it's not the same law that's now governing there. These things have changed, I mean, and we've been asked to go back, which would really be a best. I mean, you know, I think we ought to sign the deed and get out. In fact, I can, as a chairman, make the motion. I'll make the motion that we sign this deed.
Second.
Okay,
well, he
You say you
seconded it.
can or can't?
yeah, I can make the motion. I
Okay.
made the motion. You
Second.
second it? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, thank you. Thank you, the people there, for the patience. Hey, listen, it's done. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll sign it. This is the main copy here, Dave, you want to sign it from here, or?
I have a copy right here, Eldon.
Okay, is that the main copy? Well, okay, let's get it done. Okay, thank you very much. Denise? Anthony.
Public record is about to come.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind signing and passing it around. Oh, sure, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, moving on. Next thing, approve the meeting minutes of August 21st, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So voted. C, approve meeting minutes of September 4th, 2019.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So voted. Accept meeting minutes of September 18th, 2019 for review.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So voted. Site plan review, planning board, athletic netting located at 155 West Center Street. Dave?
So, as we know, we went to town meeting this past year in June, and we received funding for athletic netting. They went out to the bidding process over the summer. They received in their bids. It now has to be permitted through the planning board. It will be on the planning board's agenda going forward, and as part of the site plan review, the Board of Selectmen weigh in. So this is your opportunity to be able to weigh in on the plans. The current calls for a 20-foot high by 400-foot wide netting that would go straight across in order to be able to protect any balls or anything else from being able to exit the field onto Route 106.
Is this happening quite a bit over there? Is there a problem there? Is there?
So apparently it has happened more than people thought. I don't know what that means. I know
Alright.
that I sat on the school building committee, and the hope at the time was that footballs would not leave the field and go onto the road. And apparently the footballs are not the issue, it's the soccer balls that are.
Okay.
Whether, I can't speak to whether it's one time a game or once a month, but I just know it's become an issue. And where 106 is so heavily trafficked, we want to make sure it doesn't continue to occur.
Yeah, well, they don't use it for soccer currently, and they want to.
Okay.
And they
that's-
did this in
that's
order
it,
to
so-
utilize it for soccer.
You want a vote on this to move forward on it, Dave? or how?
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yes, Neil?
On that netting, is that gonna be permanent, or is it gonna be up and down, and when will it be put up? Just during school activities, or if people wanna come out there during the weekends and play, still all around?
Yeah, so Neil, I don't know the answer. Originally, it was discussed that it was going to be something that would open and close, but I recognized that that was going to add more expense, and I believe, although I'm not entirely accurate, I believe after they went out to bid, I think that they determined that it was going to be a static net, so it was going to remain up all the
Yeah,
time.
that's correct. It comes down for the winter.
Can I just
Okay,
say
exactly,
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
On that
all.
note, when we go to town meeting, and we approve of these articles, I assume this is already put in the plan. Like, after we approve it, they get the money, then we go put it up. Now it would seem like we're trying to sort this whole thing out. Like at town meeting, that's why I always believe in the PowerPoint. There was no PowerPoint, nobody asked questions, now we'd like backtrack it. Because we'd like the dog park, no such thing. Now we're gonna put this together. When? This
Well-
has already been done. It's just that here's the plans, here's the company that's gonna do it, this is the cost, and this is how it's gonna work.
The problem with some of it, I know what you're saying, but like this is an engineered drawing. We had to pay to have this stamped engineered drawing. So we'd have to invest more money before town meeting with funds that we don't have yet.
So you're saying you've engineered it after the town meeting for this?
Yeah, because we didn't have the funding. We didn't have the funding for an engineered plan before the town meeting. We needed that funding, and step one was get the engineered plan.
The way it sounded like we had the net was gonna be up and down, but I understand the engineering part of it. But I assume all this legwork is done, so the town people vote on it either way, if it's approved, this up and gets rolled.
Okay, we have a motion to move forward on this?
Do we need a vote on this, David?
You do not, just if there's
Okay,
any
all right,
comments
then.
that you want to make, please inform me, and we'll make sure we pass it along to the planning board. Sometimes we have no comments, and I pass that along instead.
Do you
Okay.
know roughly what the timetable is before the netting should be up?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the last correspondence that I've had is that the developer at this point doesn't appear that they can start the job until November. So then it'll just become weather dependent, because obviously they have to put in footings. You can't do it if the ground is frozen. So there's a chance it could be done by the end of the year, but there's also a chance it may not be done till spring.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Moving forward, act on the street lighting request of Andrea Way. Okay. Approved by the Street Lighting Committee.
Yep, so, yes, on Andrea Way, that is a cul-de-sac off of Route 106. There is only one street light. The
Yep.
Street Light Committee has reviewed it. They are recommending that we add another street light. So as per the policy, they make the recommendation, the Board of Selectmen then take a vote. And if the vote is affirmative, we will contact National Grid. If not, then obviously we don't put it up.
All right, that request to carry over for Ken area for the water departments there, is that,
So I'll make a motion first to approve the request for the streetlight on Andrea
Yeah,
Way.
right.
I'll second that motion.
is any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so voted.
Thank you.
And then that other request that I went over there that for Ken, for the water department, for the vacation carryover, should be voted on.
So he's requesting to carry over 5 vacation days from 2019
That is correct.
Yep.
to fiscal year 2020.
Well, the collective bargaining agreement, their vacation times go from their start date to their start date.
Okay.
So if he started in theory on November 1st, then he would be carrying over effective November 1st.
Okay, is there,
I'll make a motion to approve the carryover request.
is there a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so voted. All right, appointments. June Metcalf. I've been talking with June Metcalf for years about her neighborhood over there, and now I think it's really at the alarm there. It's getting worse by the day with all the businesses, especially down in the Bridgewater, moving all those trucks up through there and now. It's a horror sight. So I just hope we can do something about it.
Okay, so I have.
Go ahead, June, you have the floor.
Right, thank you. I have a letter I was going to read, and then very timely, an article came out in the paper. Do you want it?
Tell you where you live,
I live 268 River Street, West Bridgewater.
right?
Okay, so I'm the house that sells the wood in front of the house.
Yeah.
And also I'm kind of at the top of the hill. So when we go out of our driveway, we can't always see the cars that are coming, which makes it kind of a challenge. But I'm just going to read the letter just so that I don't forget something.
Go ahead.
Okay, we are lifelong residents of West Bridgewater living at 268 River Street, where the traffic continues to grow daily, bringing about very serious safety concerns that we now ask you, our elected officials, to solve. River Street is a historic and scenic area of town with people often stopping by to see farm animals, view the river, view the Keith House, rest at Town Park, or help round up loose cows, which happens. But sadly, this has become a very dangerous road for people who live, walk, jog, bicycle, or just try to enjoy the street and the view. A year ago or so, a car stopped just beyond my house, going towards Forest Street, to view a field of cows, only to have a pickup truck slam into the rear of the car, pushing it across the field up against Mr. Williams' boundary. It was a very serious accident. Then, just so you know, a few weeks ago, one afternoon, my husband counted all the tractor trailers that came down our road. In a time between 1 and 4 o'clock, we had 55 loaded tractor trailers coming down our road. Our road is not wide. Often, the big vehicles, they're pruning my tree and they're pruning Philip Anderson's tree across the street. And they take pretty big limbs off sometimes. The road is narrow with a dip that often causes cars to crash in front of my house. Philip Anderson has 2 trees that can attest to that because they have marks on them from the cars landing up against them. So I wonder how long it's going to be before a tractor trailer or a commercial vehicle ends up in my front bedroom. Additionally, Scotland Street is going to be a housing development which will bring more traffic and increase our safety risks. So we do need your help. So that you totally understand the serious safety concerns on River Street, please borrow a grandchild or a student and walk the length of River Street at 7:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 5 p.m. I've brought a Globe article which shows all the things that you can do to stop the traffic from, trying to avoid 106 or whatever. There are barriers that you can temporarily put on the road that have like speed bumps to slow people down, etc. But I was hoping for everybody's safety that you will soon post a signage limit as is described in the Globe, and then also put a 2.5-ton weight limit on, I meant to say commercial vehicles, but anyways, that's the news. I get ahead of myself. But like I said, it's really gotten so, Ron, they'd just as soon run him over when he's out by his wood pile. And try and go get your mail, and because there's a curve right there, you kind of have to stand behind the mailbox and reach around and put your hand in your mailbox to try to get your mail. So I hope you can help us solve it. Thank you.
Well, there's so many things here too, and one of the things I'll start with Chris. Chris, is there any width of that road that the town owns there? Is there any way that we could widen the road, maybe put a sidewalk on there, or a bike trail? Maybe we could start there. As far as what goes down there, that's up to the Board of Selectmen and the Police Department.
Thank you.
As far as the speed and the thing there, it's a combination of the Police Department, Board of Selectmen.
So,
Go ahead, Chris, I know you've been in it, and
the layout is such that you could increase the width.
okay.
The road was built obviously many years ago for much smaller amounts of traffic. If you do start to widen these roads, which is going to happen, you're going to be taking trees and stone walls and so forth to do that, which is all, again, possible to do. We do have sidewalks going on Howard Street in the next couple of weeks, which will then continue down River Street towards the park, and eventually down River Street towards Charles Street, which will increase the width, or give some protection for pedestrians along there, okay? So that is in the works, and it's coming along. Within a year or two on River, within a week or two on Howard Street. That's our first new sidewalk construction, so.
Well, they use that street to avoid, let's face it, 106, which is a disaster out there now. I mean, you see where all our calls are for our police department. They're along there, and it get worse as you go up towards the market basket. So everything is, and of course now Bridgewater, that's built that industrial area down there, that's funnel everything. And I don't really know how they can make it over that bridge down there, we spent money on the bridge, but those are some big trucks that are going there, and they're moving up, and they go up through Charles Street, they go all over our town.
Yeah.
And, I think we should take some action. There is things we can do.
So can I just say something, Alden?
Don't say anything, jump in any time.
So I'm fairly new at all of this, but, and I heard everything you said, and I'm wondering, so why can't we just put signage up and limit the weight of the commercial vehicles that can go down there? That seems like a simple move. Probably sounds more simple than it is to do, but I think that would be a start to help with the problem, because I heard you, Chris, and I'm thinking, well, we widen the road, that just invites more traffic.
Yeah. As far as weight limits on bridges, each bridge would have to be engineered, which we are talking about doing now. It's a $10,000 to $15,000 price tag per bridge, but that was my initial reaction when I thought of how can we stop some of these larger trucks on these small culverts and bridges that we have along South Elm and River Street. But that would be the procedure that we would have to go.
You mean we have to prove that the...
We have to have it engineered that the road, or the bridge would only take so much weight, then we could post it.
But we're talking about roads, not bridges.
This
Well,
is
the
just a
bridges would
road.
stop the cars, the trucks.
All right, I know what Denise is trying to say. If we can eliminate, get some of this thing done with signs.
But that's where they're coming from.
Yeah, all right, I'll get to you. Go ahead.
Can't exit, so, oh yeah.
What's your name for the record?
Rowan Cream, 96 South Elm Street. I'm also a lifelong resident of the corner of River and South Elm.
Yeah?
Widening the roads and putting in sidewalks. It's like you said, it requires us to take down trees and historic rock walls. River Street is the heart of the rural character of this town, which is a rural character that I have observed throughout my life, a commitment from this town to protect and it is something that has had a very
Historical.
formative effect on and a deep respect for this environment and way of living and for the people who live here. And I just feel that widening roads and putting in sidewalks and taking away those trees and historic rock walls is not an effective way to solve a problem if it takes away the things that make River Street such a beautiful and valuable part of this town.
Good point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have a letter to you.
Thank you.
Also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like a letter?
You want it?
It's a letter from Carol Ashton, 196 River Street, Don
Excuse me.
Ashton. Dear Selectmen, we are here this evening to describe and make you aware of a crisis that we have on River Street, to offer suggestions about ways to lessen the problem, and to find out if you or some other board or department in town has the authority to implement life-saving changes. River Street runs through West Bridgewater's community preservation farmland and snakes along our beautiful town river. Along its curvy way it bends 7 times, making room for trees, homes, the historic Keith House, and its intersection with Howard, South, Forest, and Charles Streets. I have one sign, but actually it's 2. 2 signs warn motorists to slow down for farming equipment. Although 4 speed limit signs vary from 35 to 25 miles an hour, the legal speed limit on the road is 35 miles per hour. Measuring from white line to white line on the road, River Street is 18.5 feet wide. From the no passing yellow lines in the middle to the side white line, it's only 8 feet. There are no sidewalks or bike lanes or walking paths available along the street. Pedestrians, bikers, and motorists share the same road space. In years past, River Road as a friendly farm river road was safe for foot traffic and wheeled vehicles alike. Safe, however, is not the word to describe it today. Now we say it's dangerous and unsafe at best. What we ask is the underlying reason for the change. Recently, we learned that River Street is a favorite on everyone's avoid the traffic, get ahead there faster app. We have become a popular cut-through street for hosting 10-wheelers, cars and SUVs, 4-wheel trucks, construction and commercial trucks, transportation, vans, school buses, motorcycles, bikers, and walkers, also the dogs, coyotes, and an occasional escaped cow. As a cut-through street, there are realities that make our road an unsafe, dangerous place. They are volume of motorized traffic, weight and size of vehicles, and a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. As to volume, on Monday, September 13th, the grand total of foot and traffic count crossing in front of our home on 196 River Street from 6:30 a.m. in the morning to 6:30 p.m. was 3,321 vehicles. There were 10-wheelers, there were 74 of them, 4-wheel trucks, 576, commercial trucks, 207, school bus and transportation vans, 29, cars and SUVs, 2,409, motorcycles, 11, bikers, 3, walkers, 12. This volume created a constant flow of traffic throughout the day. Sometimes there was a slowing or stopping of traffic altogether, but breaks in the flow were few and far between. Often the flow is kept going by motorists crossing over the yellow no passing line in order to pass a slow-moving vehicle, biker, or to avoid a walker. Traffic was never backed up and stopped in parking lot fashion. Conditions were unsafe here when vehicles swerved over the yellow lines, risking collision with oncoming traffic, and for vehicles did not stop and give walkers the right-of-way on the road. The second point, weight and size of vehicles. Last Monday, 74 10-wheeled trucks drove down River Street. The 10-wheelers barely fit in their 8 foot of space. As a result, they often crossed over the yellow line. Not only is our road too narrow to safely fit this size vehicle, but a hill and 7 curves in the road limit the driver's ability to see what's coming around the bend. The problem for weighty 10-wheelers is that it takes longer for them to stop, and it's harder for them to negotiate turns. Conditions were unsafe when 10-wheelers left no room for people on the street. Smaller vehicles veer out of the 10-wheelers' way, thus endangering walkers and bikers on their side of the street. And also 10-wheelers weave around walkers and bikers, crossing the yellow line again and pushing oncoming traffic to their side of the street, forcing walkers and bikers into side ditches. 10-wheelers fail to negotiate turns and veer off the road and damage homeowners' land. Vehicles have to swerve over the no crossing line to miss vehicles parked on the side of the road. And lastly, to the speed limit. The speed limit for River Street is 35 miles per hour. According to recent assessments by our police, motorists along River Street are going below the speed limit. That's good news for the drivers, but bad news for human beings who are no match for machines. Particularly at risk are side-by-side walking students, track teens running in mass, parents with baby strollers, and visitors to the historic Keith House. Too fast, too narrow, too heavy, too big, too much traffic on cut-through River Street begs for something to be done today. Waiting it out, hoping that the perfect storm won't happen, and longing for the good old days is not an option for us. Like other towns featured in Sunday's Boston Globe local edition, shutting down cut-throughs, we can act now to make River Street safer by discouraging cut-through traffic and by slowing down vehicles. Here are a few suggestions that would not overburden us with cost. 1, simply restrict 10-wheeler vehicles' access to River Road. 2, lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. Or at least lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour during the before and after school hours. Our children are at risk. Install removable speed bumps. Lastly, we would like to know, if you choose to do so, are you the authorizing body that can act on suggestions such as these? Or if you are not, who or what town body has the authority to act now? In closing, we'd like to thank our police officers who are doing their best to attend to our safety. And we thank those who are working to get much needed sidewalk construction along River Street. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much.
Ashton. Thank you.
Full report.
So, Chris, I have a question for you. You said you can't do, we wouldn't be able to just move forward with a weight limit because we'd have to have some sort of study done for the bridges. What about a height limit? The reason I'm asking about a height limit, because on River Street there are a lot of branches that are hanging over the road, and when those larger trucks come through, they're hitting them. So could we have a height limit?
I've never heard of that, other than for underpasses and bridges.
Chris, we can control what goes through there. I mean, you know, all the symptoms are narrow and no sidewalks and everything else. And to have 10-wheelers go down there, right there, I mean, and of course, it's a historical area too. I mean, there's got to be something to do. Like, you know, where we make the studies up the old colony plan, but you go on and on and on. Sometimes you get on those tip lips and, you know, nothing is done for years. You got to wait for the right time, or they don't have the funding, and you know, where I run in those intersections like 106 below Trukey's, we had to come up with the funding for the legal to get the thing moving, and we finally got the lights there. Okay, but over here, I think if we could just take the graduate, if we can just control what goes down there, and that's got to be involved with the police and how we got to change that thing. I think we went through that before.
I think the police is your.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but I think, in fact, I'm surprised that the police are not here. Any police here today? No.
Mr.
No. Yeah,
I just
go ahead.
want, the gentleman in the back had his hand up for something.
Yeah,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
make sure you know.
Elder,
Yeah.
Jim Thomas, 311 River Street. In the afternoon, I can't get out of my driveway.
Right.
And the thing about it is, if I've come back from South Elm Street down to River Street, I'll put my turn signal on left to pull in the driveway. These people start passing me on the left.
Yeah.
They start passing me on the left. I come up South Elm Street, and once I crest the hill, start to go down the hill, I'm going 30, you know, the speed limit. These cars are flying by me.
Right.
And I get sick and tired of it, and they honk the horn and everything else, and they pass me, then try to cut me off and try to push me in the ditch. And it's like it's getting ridiculous on River Street because the people are flying through, passing. I've been passed with my left turn signal on, trying to turn signal into my driveway. They're passing me on the left. You know, it's ridiculous on the traffic that's going down River Street. They're speeding. I was told that the fastest car they got last year was like 60-something mile an hour going past Howard Anderson's up the top of the hill. That thing they had up there, that clocked like 60, 65 mile an hour, the fastest car going on River Street. You know?
I think, you know, a starting point would be there to, you know, restrict what
Right,
goes
correct.
down and there. That will cover quite a bit, at least get something going.
Right, but the
You know,
speed is.
like to get, and the speeding can, you know, more coverage of the police. You know, this has got to be coordinated. It ain't something easy.
Right.
It's been going on for years. And I'll tell you, if you think where I live up in Grand Street, I mean, I wake up with the traffic, believe me.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's continuous. And, you know, I got that narrow street up there too, a bridge that's
Yeah.
deteriorating there too. And,
I know.
And so that is a problem you have in that thing. But there's other sections in West Bridgewater that there
Lot of
is,
sections in
it should
West
be looked at
Bridgewater.
too.
Right, I understand that.
I know June's been after it for years, and like she said, she can't even get out of her yard, you know?
I can't get out of my driveway in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead,
can't.
June.
So we're just asking for a weight limit, and like on the Globe, sometimes they limit the hours that cut-through traffic can come during school hours, but it's the volume of traffic. We're not asking for anything to do with the bridges.
Right.
The trucks come down
Yep.
all the way to River Street past the park. So like I said, if you were to just put a weight limit, my husband seems to think you could put just 10 tons.
Or even 20-ton. Most of them tractor trailers, when they're loaded, with the tractor and the trailer and the load, are 60,000 pounds, 30 ton. Even if you put a limit of 20 ton, you're gonna stop them because they're gonna be well over that.
Yeah, you still got farms down there too, and
Well,
they
farms
got,
get exempt
they got these big trucks coming down.
to
That's,
go on their property and off their
They're,
property.
they're exempt. But also,
I don't care about being exempt, but they're slow-moving vehicles. They have these big, heavy trucks
Right.
on there. You know, it's a wonder we haven't had a real problem. You know.
so, and the problem is only gonna grow, and like I said, we deserve to have a safe neighborhood.
I think we should take all these ideas, Dave, and put them in there and right to the different things like the police department and the people that can do something here.
This gentleman here.
The name for
Yeah, just, hold on, Phil.
I've seen other towns, because the GPS tells everybody to go down River Street for the curfew.
Yeah,
So I've seen other towns like Canton, and I can't remember the other
Yeah,
few.
right.
What they do is they have a schedule, and you can't go down that street during prime times. And the other thing I wanted to add is, the turn there where the horse barn is,
Yeah.
they can't make that turn, because I went up there to take a left, towards the dump,
right.
and it almost went right in front of me, because what they do is they swing way out, almost onto that horse property to make that turn, so if anybody's right there,
Mhm.
yeah, they're toast. You get a truck, and they go in, they don't even slow down, they just make the swing.
No, they don't.
Super
They just
dangerous.
fly around.
Yeah, and they don't have the room.
And they're on their property. I've seen
Yeah.
them weigh 10 feet on their grass and everything. They go right there and take out their bushes.
Yeah,
Then-
I followed one, going back and forth to that Wayfair warehouse, whatever. They float in the middle of the road like the whole entire ride, because they can't fit in that little lane. The lanes are so small.
EMS, those trucks start at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm on that
no, I know.
corner, and they start.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
right.
saying.
Right, oh, so you know that turn.
I've
Yeah,
seen them
they
on
can't
your-
make that
on-
turn.
I'm in the blue house.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've seen them on your lawn.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm serious. I've seen them on,
Patiently all day.
Go
I
ahead.
was just wondering if they, couldn't the police set up a weigh station and harass these guys? They make them pull into the town dump. At least check their weight and see if they're within the weight limit.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that, and they'll find somewhere else, some other way to go.
We wouldn't do anything just to harass someone,
Why not?
but I mean, if it's
Live in my house for a day and see what it's
yeah,
like.
but again, we wouldn't do it just to harass them. If there's a
Oh,
law we need,
That's legal.
if there's a law we could enforce, then
You
I'm
can
all
legally- You can
all
legally
for
check
that.
trucks for
but-
weight.
You can request, I think, from the state
yeah.
to have them
My
come.
concern is when that
Tell me
furniture
that.
warehouse, whatever it is,
Yeah.
opens up,
Yeah.
will still be a route for these furniture places. So even if the construction's done, it's still gonna,
It's not
oh,
gonna
it's crazy.
stop.
Right. No, I don't disagree
Well, we're
with you
taking
at
it
all.
back.
I'm just wondering, David, what type of
The,
authority do we
downstreet
have?
program.
What are some
He was
things we
sitting right
could
on the
do?
line. I
The
couldn't
town
get
does
him
waste
straight.
trucks out on
And he
106,
pulled
why
it
can't they
over
weigh them
mile
on
down.
River
He said,
Street?
"Stay with me." I
Set a
was
weigh
straight
station on
down.
South Elm at the dump, they can pull in there and give weighed.
I'm not saying we wouldn't. I'm just saying we want to find out first what type of authority we have.
Well, before we get to all hands, has anybody spoke that wants to speak, that hasn't spoke? Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Eric, it's my wife Julie, we live at 45 River Street. Some of you may be familiar with the post that I put on the hub, with the high school kids running on River Street. They had just kind of swerve. I've got video on my dash cam. I drive up and down River Street maybe half a dozen to a dozen times a day, because my office is up behind Barrett's. I jog on River Street, we have 3 young daughters that ride on River Street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an incredible hazard. I mean, it's just waiting to happen. I've got countless videos. I mean, I went jogging yesterday on River Street. Now I've got 1 or 2 people that come at me, because I usually jog opposing traffic, and they either go completely into the other lane to avoid me with being courteous, or the people that just like zip right by me. I mean, these tractor trailers, this and that, and they don't yield at all. One of the things that kind of drives me crazy is everybody's familiar with the texting initiative from the police department in West Bridgewater, right? No texting, texting stings, this and that, whatever. I don't understand why we can't just have the police on River Street and just start nailing these people. 25 miles an hour, I'll guarantee at least 70% of them are doing more than that on at least down by the park area. We live right across from the park. They're flying by. Chris can probably attest to how many of those walls have been hit right across from the park. I mean, at least once a year, one of those suckers gets taken out. And that ain't being done at 20, 25 miles an hour. Those are big, huge stone barriers that they're knocking like 20 feet away. It's just waiting to happen.
And where they're hitting those are exactly at the entrance to the park,
Yeah.
where our 3 little
Yeah, we don't
girls, I
even-
mean,
we
that's our like playground for our kids, and I actually printed out the pictures because it's just the last accident that happened there terrified me, because this is in my head, this is a car on top of one of my kids, because it's directly across the street from our house, and
And that's not infrequent.
this
What do
happens.
you think, once a year, Chris? We take out one of those big stone things?
And for us, our 3 kids go to the Howard School, which is, a half a mile from our house. They can't walk there. I've tried to with Carol Ashton. We've tried again and again with Safe Routes to Schools, but nobody's really support, not that they're not supportive of it, but people aren't walking to school because it's simply not safe. And this year, we actually had to pay for the bus for our kids. I even spoke to the police and they were like, don't let your kids walk. It's not safe.
It's crazy.
So we're paying for a bus and we live a half a
Right in
mile
front of,
from
right
the
in front of the
school.
Walsh's house is probably one of the worst spots. I come jogging around River Street, pretty frequently, and those turns are blind.
So
People
I
come
don't-
around those corners doing 30, 40 miles an hour.
I don't doubt anything you're saying whatsoever because I drive River Street twice a day.
Can't the
I
police
use it
just,
to
like-
avoid
I mean,
106
I
too.
see the police on
And
South Elm.
I've had people almost up against the back end of my car because I'm not going fast enough for them. So I agree with you, there's clearly a problem, but what I would like to know, David, is what type of authority do we have? What could we do sooner rather than later?
So to answer some questions that you have, Selectman raised, and that Reverend Ashton points out, is that lastly, you ask, is this the authorizing body? The answer is yes. So you're at the right place if we want to be able to do something. You basically have 4 different suggestions. One is restrict 10-wheeler access on River Road. In order to do that, there is a Mass DOT process that allows you to do it. As the gentleman said, some other towns, he's seen that in it. The process is with Mass DOT is that we have to hire an engineer and they have to do some work. I had spelled it out. I thought it was in the packet. I guess it's not. But in preparation for this, there was a 2-page document that I received from Mass DOT. So I'll get you those answers. The concern with that is we just would have to hire a traffic consultant, and that traffic consultant then would put together all the information, including how many 18-wheelers go down, what their average speed is. They also take into account all the information that you've already said, the width of the road, all of that information. They provide it to the Board of Selectmen. If the Board of Selectmen believe at that point that it is an issue, we would then forward it to Mass DOT, and Mass DOT has to approve it. Because they then forward all that information out to the appropriate trucking agencies. So there is a process, and we have to, and my first concern on that is the cost of traffic consultant, we don't just have sitting in a budget. So we probably have to go to a town meeting to try to secure some additional funds for that. In reference to lower the speed limit, we had received this information over the summer. So what we did is that Mass DOT will require us, in order to be able to change speed limits, is to also find out what actual speeds are. So we've included in the packet at the next sheet, you'll see that in July 22nd to July 26th, we put up a speed board. The gentleman in the back who said that he heard that there was a maximum speed of 60-something miles an hour is correct. There was a maximum speed of 63. You'll see that the average volume on that week per day was just under 1,900, and the total volume for the entire week was, 6,300 or 11,000, whichever one it is. However, the concern that we have is that we'll see what the 85th percentile speed is, and that's 34.32. Right or wrong, don't shoot the messenger, is that Mass DOT regulation is that it is assumed that 85% of the people or so will drive at a safe speed. So we're there at 34.32 for that week. We wouldn't be able to lower it below 35. So we wouldn't be able to lower it to 20 based on this speed limit. We didn't just take into account that week. If we scrolled 2 more, what we did was we also went out the first week of July 9th through July 22nd. You'll see that we've compiled that data as well, and we did a third tranche. So all of that data would be supplied to Mass DOT. Based on the fact that over basically the entire month or half the month of June and July, the 85th percentile of speed was between 34 on the low end and 34 on the high end, then we're not going to be able to lower it below the speed of 35. That's just their regulations. It's not the Board of Selectmen, it's not Dave Gagny.
You gotta take into consideration what you got there. You got a narrow street, no sidewalks.
So hold on.
Thickly settled.
All I'm doing is providing information.
No, but that's poor information because it's in summer.
Look at I received a request from residents and then through the Board of Selectmen over the summer to do this study. So I did it when I was requested. If the Board of Selectmen would like us to do another study, I'll be more than happy to go out. We'll hire the firm. We'll have them do another study.
I'd like to see it done when the school
So that there was the data that was provided. And then the removable speed bumps, I don't know the answer to that. That may very well be something that we can do. I'm not sure. I need to get an answer to you on that.
Eldon, I got
Oh,
a
you're right.
question for you.
What do you got?
Does this state have a law, most states, I think, if you can't be within 3 feet of a person walking, you have to be, give them 3 feet distance. Is that a law in this state?
No, that's a law.
No, but
Heard of that.
if the Board of Selectmen, if this is okay with you, what I would do is that I would reach back out to OCPC and the police department. I would ask them to do another speed summary now that the schools are in session. We will see as to what the actual volume is, say during the month of, this is October, so it probably takes a couple of weeks to get it going, so say mid-October to mid-November, somewhere in that time period. So what we'll do is we'll get some more data, and then the data at that point will dictate as to what we can do in reference to speeding.
So if that new study says that the average speed's 45 miles an hour now with the heavier traffic, then MassDOT would recommend we raise the speed limit.
What they would say is that if you wanted to raise the speed limit, you have the authority, but you could not lower it.
Well,
So what, are there no extenuating circumstances? Why is it 25 miles an hour down by the park, but then 35 everywhere else?
Yeah, so they must have went through some process. My guess is River Street is maybe even predate some of the Mass DOT regulations. So it may very well be that that's been the speed limit for a very lengthy period
But
of
is it
time.
like, so what are the circumstances that require 35 mile an hour? I mean, if you have an area that's, I don't know, that has a park or a heavy pedestrian traffic, you're saying the state's gonna be like, nope, 35 it is.
So
Are
the-
there no extenuating circumstances or anything that will allow us to reduce the speed limit and then have the police really crack down? That's gonna deter a lot of us.
Yeah. So thickly settled in the state of Massachusetts normally associates itself with 30 miles per hour. So what I would do is that if the data came in that was in excess of 30 miles an hour, is that we could petition the Mass DOT and say, look, this is a thickly settled area. The speed limit should be 30. My guess is we'd probably have a pretty valid argument with that. The only concern in there is that the 25 potentially becomes 30, so it's 30 the whole time. But we could work out with Mass DOT and make that a 10.
25 is with the curvy
Yeah.
road down there, so I imagine that's why.
We could put all that into the report. I mean, I don't.
From 35 to 30, I don't think it's gonna make a substantial difference.
Is the speed test done by that, they put up that machine that as you're driving by, it tells you how fast you're going?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Where is
So
it?
here's
Where is
let me
that?
just
Oh,
finish.
It makes
Okay,
people slow down.
let me just finish, please. Here's the problem with the sign, and I think you all agree. What do we all do when we see that on the side of the road?
Slow down. Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
So are they gonna
Right?
follow it? If you lower the speed
I mean,
limit, they're not gonna follow it, so it's really the volume.
So is there any way of doing that test without putting up the blinking sign that tells everyone to slow down?
So this here is what we asked the police department to do because we own the reader board and it doesn't cost us a lot of money to use it. If we want to put strips down, the strips will do a couple of things for us. One is it's going to determine speed, and two, it's going to tell us what the truck volume is because it will count the number of axles. But we don't own those. Usually that's what a private traffic consultant firm will do. And that's why Mass DOT normally requires that when they look at this as part of its broad study. So it's just about money. You know, if we have $5,000 sitting around and we want to hire a private consultant, let's hire a private consultant. I just know we never went to town meeting putting $5,000 somewhere so we could do it one day. So that's why I'm recommending that I try OCPC because they would do the work for free. If they have the strips, lay them down as to whether or not we can collect the data. If they do not have the strips, then we have to hire a private firm to be able to do it, and it just requires money.
Do you know, is that $5,000 a real estimate, or are you just throwing that out?
I spoke to one engineer, but this is something that he does himself, but that's what he was guessing.
So if I would say putting down those strips is the wiser route to go, because I suspect if you get the blinking light back out there, everyone's gonna do the same thing, slow down. And you're not going to get the results you normally see when the light's not there.
If I remember correctly, where they had the light, it was coming the wrong way. You had a distance before you would see it to slow down. Where if you came from South Elm and had it, when you went down that hill, the people would already be going fast. And you might get a correct reading, but the bottom line is, it's the volume of traffic that's the problem, and they need to stop the cut-through traffic. They need to stop the big, huge tractor trailers.
106 isn't big enough
I know, look,
We have a
I
problem,
don't
and
think
it's
this,
not just River Street, it's other streets, people are being cut through.
because I don't think there's anybody in this room or anybody listening to this telecast that disagrees with the concern, because you're absolutely correct.
Well, we got, we got the Old Colony Planning Council to do Matfield Street, and it didn't take long to do that, to come up with, as far as some of these answers that you want, the answers for there. Because, you know, we get the equipment up there, and at least we know, and the Department of Transportation listens to us too.
Yep.
We have those meetings all the time, Chris is there, like I was saying, so there's things that can be done, so, we gotta start somewhere, and, but there's so many things wrong here that, where do you start and where do you end here on it?
Yep, so what I would suggest at this point is, I think everybody's in agreement. So I think if the Board of Selectmen would take a vote, ask me to reach out to OCPC, let's see exactly what they have for apparatus that we can use, start to compile the applicable research that we have to in order to go to Mass DOT, and then let's see where we go with from there. If they come back with the information that we all expect, then we're gonna be able to potentially go to Mass DOT. If it doesn't come back with the information that we expect, for example, it says it's 35 miles per hour, or they can't cut the traffic on the commercial vehicles, we then may have to hire a private outside firm.
Right.
In the
We got
meantime,
all kinds of-
I'm sorry, in the meantime, I have no problem, I'll talk to the police chief in the morning. We could certainly step up police patrols on River Street.
Yeah, well, that's a start, you know?
When we ask for them, they do it.
Can we
It's
find
something
out,
we ask for and they do it.
can we find out what data was gathered for those towns? Because it seems to be a trend now, because all these towns all over the country, PBS is sending people, you know, through the streets. Can we find out the data that they used to finally get the town to put a schedule, you know, because I've seen it in towns where you cannot go down a certain street during certain times. What was the data gathered to get that?
I mean, I don't know, but.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
'cause you're
I
gonna
can't
talk
call
about
100
stuff.
municipalities across the country and just ask them. I mean, I'm
No,
just
I
saying
meant
that.
the
if-
OCP or the, because they may be able to tell you what was gathered. I don't know the term of what it's called,
I mean,
but
but
it's,
But the bottom line is, we know Mass DOT has a process. Let's collect the data. Let's give it a legitimate shot with Mass DOT as to what we can do. It becomes a template for what we have to do, because we receive complaints, every member of the board and myself have received complaints with some other roads near where you were at. And let's see if it's a template. The one item I do want people to know, and again, don't shoot the messenger, is that part of Mass DOT's regulations is that commercial truck traffic have a right to go down a road if they are substantially adjacent to the road that they're using. So that means that where you do have some development on Scotland Street turning into Elm Street, if they can prove that there's a reason why they're using that road, they're going to fight at Mass DOT as well. Just giving you a heads up. They have their rights. They're going to, Mass DOT doesn't just make a decision in a vacuum. They'll be talking to the trucking associations as well. Just letting you know.
The Bridgewater way.
They may very well, I mean, look, they
both.
probably
They do have
do.
a straight shot right to 106,
Yeah.
just to be
The-
fair.
the problem
That
is-
street that sees big trucks from
the
school building. and-
Outside of Route 28 and Route 106, our roads were not designed for the 21st century traffic that it's receiving. And that is not just in reference to commercial truck. That's also normal everyday traffic. Our roads just are not meant to handle that type of traffic, regardless of the size of the vehicle.
So I would,
A grandfather clause with the DOJ around what is it? DOT, around farm roads?
Yeah, so, and there's no doubt, agricultural trucks are always exempt.
But in terms of speed limits or anything like that?
Well, no, they have to abide the speed limit. But if you add, for example, if we had a 10-ton weight limit, if it was agricultural purposes, they would still be able to use the road.
I think the question's more, is there an exception outside of the norm for historical or agricultural communities or areas of town?
Oh,
Any special statute or or privileges that they would get because of?
I think we make that as part of the argument. I don't know off the top of my head.
You know, years ago, the older people, like, I know Jack's here, Marge McDonald was a selectman there for many, many years. And if you notice, you go North Elm Street, you got Hartshorn Drive, no streets are wide. Well, what was in the planning there, we just started turning steel there because you used to have the railroad tracks there and have an alternate road and that's where they were gonna empty out in the thing, but the thing was never followed up. But, you know, the intention was there, but nobody actually moved along, an alternate road, because, all of a sudden, now we got a real problem out there. And, you got your problems on River Street, and of course, now with the industrial, thing down in Bridgewater, it's even compacted even more. I mean, so it's getting relatively worse. There is some things that we can do there, and one of the things there, I'll try to get the study going there, and I'll have them, because this is a priority there, that are down there, and get them moving over there, and talk to the police chief, and get the thing rolling there, because and we just don't want to go to sleep on it. I want the thing moving. So at least we can do some things, you know?
I will just tell you, I feel like, no offense, the truck drivers are literally raping our road. I mean, they don't care about us or anything that happens on it. They don't
No.
care about our children. And like I said, I honestly feel that the officials, including the police, ought to walk down our road those different times and see what happens with those trucks. By the time you get a study going, that job is going to be done with, and you're going to it's going to come back, oh, just great. But then once Scotland Street starts up again, you're going to get more trucks, and like I said, literally, I mean, they just assume push you off the road, and they have no respect.
How's the lighting on the street? You think that's
I think
adequate?
there should be more lighting at night.
Well, this is where I can help. I've got a friend that's on the National Grid there, and he's way up on the thing. I don't like to go over anybody's head. In fact, the guy from East Bridgewater, I told him, I said, listen, what I was told, it costs so much for traffic lights now, and I don't know if you realize what's happening up there on
It is very expensive.
so to put a light, it costs a fortune, and
Correct.
and that's what we're going through. So what was suggested to me that we light up some of these intersections, and where I done it, in fact, it took a while to do it, but we finally got it the way we wanted there, is down near Pine Hill Cemetery where Copeland Street meets. If you notice, there's some bright lights up there. We did two different things. We were out there every 9 o'clock at night there with this individual, okay? What they did first, they put the light on the other side, where North Elm Street. So it's like daylight there now. And to light up some of these intersections there, because they're a problem. And so I was asking the police, how's it working out? It's working out fine, because and then Matfield Street had a light, and they went over to come to find out the bulb in there was what would happen on Copeland Street. They had two lights together. One was putting the other one out. I said, what are you doing this for? I said, why don't you take that light and put it over in the sub-pole on Copeland Street and light this whole thing up? So I think it's a lot better now. So, but you gotta work at this thing, and he keeps on telling me. Now the lights on up near the market basket. There's lights all over the place that are out. So you're not gonna get out of your car to go on a heavy street to get the pole number and everything else. So I asked the National Grid to go up there, and now the lights there was quite a few lights that are out. But as an individual, if you're on a street that you got a light that's out, take the number out and call it in, because we'll get it fixed. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to know, so are we getting, kind of a commitment that you will look into all of the suggestions that were made?
Well, yeah.
I would say you're getting a commitment. We'll contact OCPC to find out about getting the strips in there to do the testing, because, in my opinion, that's going to get you your better results versus warning everyone to slow down for light. Secondly, David assured us he'd contact the police department in the morning, get some additional, see if he has available some additional.
Some of the things that we can do,
Right,
That's-
these are the things that we did in July.
Now, the other things you suggested. Where is that? I'm sorry.
Because it's the volume. You can't forget about the volume, because the speed, lowering the speed, they may not follow that, But
Right.
the volume is insane. I mean, you saw the count of the cars.
So I'm going to go back to Chris again. You already said it would take a complete study if we wanted to do anything regarding the weight limit.
On the
Are there-
bridges. On the bridges.
Okay, but what about the street, River Street?
Weight
Just that section.
Well, I'm the one that said that. So yes, it would require a study if we want to be able to put a weight restriction on that street.
Okay, so are there any other types of actions that can be, that we're aware of, that can be taken?
In reference to weight restriction, no.
No.
The Globe also, to protect the children in school, the article I gave you has a sign that shows during certain hours, you're not allowed to do bypass. You're not allowed to take a street that's going to be like on our road. They'd have to stay on 106 to protect the children when they're trying to walk. And as I said, you should walk that road to understand what's going on. It's not, like I said.
Life insurance updated.
Yes, exactly.
I think the right thing to do is to take all of those suggestions. Let me find out exactly what we need to do, what we can do at a local level without having to contact Mass DOT, and what we have to do to contact Mass DOT and allow, hopefully, OCPC to conduct the study that they need to in the meantime and see as to what we can do. The one thing I am positive that we can do is that we can ask police to go out there and step up the patrols. You're right, we did do that. I hope it had some type of short-term effect, but I'm
It
sure
did
there
have a
was-
short-term effect, yes.
So it's short-term.
help.
Unfortunately, we do.
Did
I mean,
help.
But they need a sign going both ways.
No, unfortunately, I receive a lot of requests from residents throughout the entire town.
I
And we only
understand.
have 4 officers on per shift.
Right.
So a lot of times what happens, if I put 2 there, the rest of the town is dark.
Correct.
And then, unfortunately, I then have to shift to a different part of the town. The hope is that you change some of the habits if they see stepped-up police. And again, it was probably just a short-term effect.
It was very short effect.
But the GPS will tell, I mean, I use Waze all the time.
Sure.
It'll tell you the police are there, so you slow down well before you come to the cop.
People flashing their lights, I come
I
down.
mean,
Well,
as soon as they go away. as soon
I
as they
think
go
this is the
away.
way to go. We got a process, and we'll start moving on it. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
So also,
We're talking about pedestrian safety. One of the things I noticed in town too, having some young daughters, drives me crazy. While you're talking to the police department as far as River Street's concerned, and pedestrian traffic, crosswalks, forget about it. We could stand at crosswalk on 106, like stepping into it, and just wham, 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 cars just going by. You literally have to like flag a car and be like, can I go now? Like, crosswalk law, I mean, that's a legitimate concern. I don't understand why the police don't target those people as they do, like, say, texting. I mean, you could sit there and, I watched 10 cars go by, like, standing in the crosswalk. My kids, the little kids, they just zipping by. They don't care, people don't care at all. So, just another thing you might want to bring up with
I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
the chief.
is a sidewalk completely out of the question? Because I feel like people do go down there and enjoy it. They want to see the cows and they want to see the stuff, but it's like so dangerous. I mean, you see families down there, but that's probably separate, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a sidewalk is completely out of the question, but, of course, it all comes down to funding, too.
Yeah, yeah.
And Chris has been working over the past year on Complete Streets to get funding for sidewalks.
Okay.
And they have a committee that
Yep.
has met and determined which areas are the focus first.
That road would be packed with people on the sidewalks looking around.
I'm older than everybody here.
Hold up the cane at least.
Something different now.
I've lived on River Street longer than everybody here.
just, there's 3 drainage ditches that go across River Street, just so you know, and they're being impacted by all the heavy tractor trailers. And so if those are straight down, you're gonna, all the water on the other side towards 106, it's not gonna have anywhere to go.
Yeah,
So the
yeah,
other issue is road deterioration, and so you've got to be aware of all those drains. It's just, well, it's impacting everything.
Right. Well, all right, Dave, so
Yep.
we'll move on. Thank everybody.
Thank you
for
very
coming.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you can help. Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody drive slow.
We do.
Okay.
Our kids should be
I do?
you know.
Hey, Chris, you know how many times I've been passed in front of your house? I've lost count.
Jefferson Roberts?
I'm assuming they're in the hallway.
They are.
Huh?
Oh,
Are they here?
oh, they waited that long?
I know, that's what she was saying. Didn't know what she was wanting to know this one. Blue Hills stuff. Yeah, let's stop.
All right.
What? I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Jefferson Roberts, huh? Okay, I'd like to welcome you and the family here. We thought that nobody got to go. I know Jeff was asked to go, and it just seemed to be, everybody was bogged down that day, but we recognize how important it is and how hard you work to be an Eagle Scout there. You know, I've got them in the family there, and I know how it's done, and the town certainly recognized that. Jeff will be presenting the proclamation to you.
Proclamation of the Board of Selectmen. Whereas Jefferson William Roberts, son of Alan and Christine Roberts of West Bridgewater, has achieved Boy Scouting's highest rank, that of Eagle Scout. Jefferson held numerous leadership positions, including patrol leader and assistant senior patrol leader. He earned 28 merit badges, as well as membership in Scouting's National Honor Society, the Order of the Arrow. And whereas Jefferson ran for West Bridgewater's track and cross-country teams during his middle and high school years, he has over 200 hours of community service, including time as a den chief for Cub Scout Pack 23 in service for his church, St. Anne's of West Bridgewater. And whereas for his Eagle Scout project, Jefferson organized, planned, and installed an outdoor xylophone at the Spring Street School playground, a musical instrument which is handicap accessible and plays a C major pentatonic scale. And whereas Jefferson is a member of West Bridgewater's Troop 25, sponsored by St. Anne's Church under the leadership of Scoutmaster Al Williams, Alan Roberts, and most recently Bob Vinskus, therefore be it resolved, we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of West Bridgewater, do hereby proclaim August 6, 2019 as Jefferson Roberts Day in recognition of Jefferson Roberts, Eagle Scout, for his outstanding accomplishment. We extend to him our deepest appreciation for all his dedicated work and wish him well in all of his future endeavors. Signed, the Board of Selectmen.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jefferson.
Good job, well done. Thank you for the accomplishment.
Congratulations. Thank you for coming.
Can we get a picture, guys?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Lady, will you take the picture?
Yeah, come over here.
Thank you.
Don't do a selfie now.
No, I wouldn't do a selfie. If you've seen mine, you would.
Come over here.
family
Denise, you
too?
want to come in here? Get the family in
Okay.
here?
We have to squeeze in tight here.
Yeah.
1,
Say cheese.
2, 3. All right, I got a couple.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Neil, she did better. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, communications and reports from boards, commissions, and town officials, correspondence to the public determine the course of action. Public comment period, is there any public comments?
We had a couple of years ago, back in census sent out, if you change the town meeting time from 7 to 6, but I don't know if we followed up on that, because we started at 7. And you get home from work, and then you go there, and you're tired, you want to get home. I was just saying, if we could move the meeting up, or try it, I consider it, try it at 6 p.m., the annual town meeting, see if we get a better response. I know people say they run around and everything, but it's a once-a-year meeting, And I think everybody should have it on the calendar because of the tax dollars, see what's going on in the town. And that way here, you're not rushing the meeting through, you can carry on a little longer, maybe get out of there by 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock. Depends how the meetings go. Sometimes the meetings fly through, and sometimes they take long because of the articles that come up on the floor. There was a mailing out on our census, and I remember checking it off. We were in favor of starting the town meeting at 6 o'clock.
Well, it's a thought, anything can be done if they want to, because a lot of people don't even get home, that early, you know what I mean? But,
A lot of people don't come either.
yeah, I know.
Excuse me, Chris, could you just ask the folks out in the hallway to just
Sure.
maybe,
You're being a bad guy, take a picture.
thank you. I can't hear what you're saying over that.
So Dave, changing the town, what do you think of that?
So it's funny, because we've discussed this. Let me ask him, since he's here, if you don't mind. That was my first year here, and we had initiated that survey. I'd have to go look at the results, but we found the results really wasn't looking for much change. However, one of the recommendations I was going to make this previous year, I was hoping to have town meeting before Memorial Day as opposed to after Memorial Day. I think you see a lot of people start their vacation breaks and they're not around. And if it's before Memorial Day, we might have an opportunity to be able to increase attendance, which I think is what we all want to do. And the only reason I didn't go forward with the request or with the board was because I had 2 new staff members that had never been through the town meeting process in West Bridgewater before. And it would have probably been a little bit too much to try to accelerate that schedule. Now that we have a little bit more of a seasoned crew, that's actually something I'm going to be looking at. So I'm asking you, what do you think about that idea of doing it before Memorial Day as opposed to after Memorial Day?
No, I just put it on my calendar whenever it is, honestly. That's up to you people. It ain't just about me.
I think it's a great idea. And I also like the idea of starting it at 6. It would be tight for me to get there, but I could get there on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I've been here 30
Yeah.
years, so.
The only, with folks that have kids and sports and getting home and,
Memorial Day will be, excuse me, Dave. Memorial Day's before the time we do it now, right?
It is. It's usually the last weekend of May. We're usually the first week of June. And it wasn't, we had discussed this because
Right.
10, 20 years ago, you used to have town meeting in April.
Yeah.
You remember the April, and then you went to May, and then it went to June.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that maybe if we could try it in mid to late May, we might be able to increase attendance and see what the results are.
Okay, so we'll look into that.
One item Selectman Ray's mentioned to me prior to the meeting is that she has a conflict on the October 16th meeting. And so I was wondering as to whether or not I can discuss it with everybody individually, or we could discuss it now. But the October 16th meeting, I believe you still have a conflict
Right.
with. And so we may want to consider the following. I think you had told me that you were okay with the following Tuesday or the following Wednesday. Selectman Kidden, we have a Wednesday meeting with the Recreational Space Committee on the 23rd. So real quickly, because I didn't have much time to prepare for it, but I'm thinking maybe Tuesday the 22nd might work, but I don't know how that looks. And we don't need the 22nd of October, and we don't have to make a
On
vote
a
or anything.
Tuesday, you mean?
Yeah. And we,
I'd have to look at my schedule.
Yep.
Because I'm out a lot now, we're trying to get a new leader up to the old colony thing, out every night, and I've got we had a meeting this week, and a meeting next week, it's these meetings though, so I just have to look this up. I don't know, I can't say tonight.
yeah, I'm not looking for a vote. I just, where she brought it up to me,
Okay,
I wanted to
yeah.
make sure the board was aware.
it's
Okay.
not even something I could participate by phone because I'll be
Yeah,
on a
right.
plane.
Okay. Yeah, we can give it consideration, yeah? All right, anything else for the public comments? Okay, moving along, town administrator's report.
Yeah, I just placed a couple of FYIs to the board in reference to use of town roads. One was for youth football, and the other one was in reference to the West Bridgewater food pantry.
Okay, you want a motion for them, or?
Nope, just,
Okay.
they were just FYIs to the board.
Okay. I don't know whether.
Executive session.
Yeah, executive session, yeah, we got it right here. Would entertain a motion, October 2nd, 2019, a motion to enter an executive session, not to return to open session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, specifically national OPED lawsuits the town is party to. Threatened litigation, especially I.W. Harding versus the town of West Bridgewater, since in my opinion, the chair strategizes in open session would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town. Roll call. Vote, and we will not be returning to open session.
Raise yes?
Can yes.
And Maria, yes. Thank you for listening, and good night.